Well,
Nice Gimel.
um, the bull offerings that are burned and the he goat offerings that are burned are subject to Meila from when they are consecrated. Once they are slaughtered, they become prepared to be disqualified through contact with the Tevel Yom, through contact with the Mechusah Kippurim, or through remaining past the time. Once the blood is sprinkled, one is liable on their account for pickle, noser, or tameh, and they remain subject to Meila in the place of the ashes until the meat has been consumed by the fire. The odor is subject to Meila when it is consecrated. Once it is slaughtered, it becomes prepared to be disqualified through contact with the Tevel Yom, through contact with the Mechusah Kippurim, or with remaining past its time. Once his blood is thrown upon the altar, one is liable on its account for pickle, noser, or tameh. Its hide is no longer subject to Meila, but the meat remains subject to Meila until it goes out to the place of the ashes. The katas, the achim, and the communal shalom offerings are subject to me'ilah from when they are consecrated. Once they are slaughtered, they become prepared to be disqualified through contact with the Tevel Yom, through contact with the Mechusah Kippurim, or through remaining past the time. Once their blood is sprinkled upon the altar, one is liable on their account for pickle, noso, or tameh, and the meat is no longer subject to me'ilah, but the sacrificial parts are subject to me'ilah until they go out to the place of the ashes. Okay.
Okay. Right, so we're carrying on in this progression, going through all the different types of korbanos, as regards the different isurim that take hold of the sacrifice and when. So now we go into the shtei alechem, the two loaves of bread that are brought on Shavuos. Okay, those ultimately are going to be eaten by the Kohanim, but they start out with the Meila Bahin Hukdashu. As soon as they're designated, Meila is effective on all of the flour. Karam Tanur, once you've mixed them up and they've developed a crust in the oven, now they're actually edible, and if a tful yom touches them or mechusah kippurim, then they become pasul. But they're also now at the ready state so that the accompanying sacrifice can be shechted. Nizrak daman, and once the blood has been thrown, then all of the dinim of pigul, noser, and tameh kick in, as with the previous korbanos. Ve'ein bahin meila, but the meila also stops at this point, because once at the same moment that all of these isurim kick in, also the isur of meila falls away, because it's allowed to be eaten by the kohanim. Lechem apanim, the showbread, morlin bo misha hukdash. Straight away from the moment that the flour has been set aside for it, it is already got a din of meila. Karim batanur, once it's developed a crust in the oven. So as with the shtei alechem in the previous case, and that also means that they're kosher to put onto the shulchan. Now there's no lina, there's no overnight, because this is left for an entire week on the shulchan. Okay, so that's not the issue. But what does allow them to be eaten ultimately is when you burn the two containers of frankincense. So karva bazichin. So once you bring the two bazichin, that's the matir that permits the kohanim to eat the shtei lechem, the lechem apanim. Chayim alav mishum pigul noser v'tameh. So now they have the clock starts ticking. They've got to eat them within the day. And also, if somebody threw put the frankincense offering with that pigul thought that we'll eat the bread tomorrow, that makes all of the bread pigul. And
what's the thing with the crust? Why does the crust make the difference? Because it becomes big.
Now because defined as bread.
Excuse me.
Up until then, it was dough. Once it gets a crust, it's bread.
It's bread. Okay. All right.
Okay, and of course, once it's edible, there's no more meila. Okay, no, not once it's edible. Once the frankincense has been offered, then there's no more meila, because it's now the kohanim are going to eat it. Okay, general menachos mo'alin bahen mishuk teshu. Once again, from the moment they are designated as a mincha offering, there's immediately meila with them. As soon as they have been sanctified in a vessel, and also by being left overnight. If so as soon as they're in the kli, they can become pasul. Karav hakometz, the comet has been taken out and thrown on the mizbeach, chayvim aleim mishum pigul nosar v'tamei. So now this is the matir that turns it into something that is edible to the kohanim. Ve'en mo'alin b'shirayim, and there's no din of meila by the shirayim because that's what the kohanim eat. Aval mo'alin b'komets ad sheyetze lebeis hadeshin. So that the comet itself, since that all goes on the mizbeach, there's still a din of meila on that until it has been burned to the point where it can be taken out, where it has been taken out to the beis hadeshin after it's been burned. Okay.
Okay. That clock is very disconcerting behind you.
The clock, because it's the wrong time.
Right.
Yeah, I need to fix that. Sorry, I haven't. I unblurred my background. Here we go. Let's fix that up.
You might have to wait till.
I had to unblur my background because for my TV interview they wanted me to have a proper background.
Did you put a beach, something like that?
No. My actual background. They didn't want a fake background.
Right. Okay, we have Hey Gimel. Reply to Akiva to him, your words are acceptable in the case of a small Meila, but what if he is guilty of a doubtful case of Meila of 100 Mana? Is it not better for him that he bring an Asham for 2 Salem and not bring a doubtful restitution of 100 Mana? The Akiva then agrees with Retofim in the case of a small Meila. If a woman brought a berkatos of doubt, it became known to her before its neck was nipped, then she had definitely given birth. She must make it an unconditional katos from the same species from which she brings an obligation of doubt, she brings an obligation of certainty. If there was a piece of ordinary meat and a piece of sanctified meat, if one ate of them, but it is not known which of them he ate, he is exempt. Rabbi Akiva holds him liable to an asham talu. If he ate the second piece, he must bring an unconditional asham. If one person ate the first piece and another person came and ate the second piece, this one must bring an asham tilah, and one must bring an asham tilah. But the other words of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Shimon says they both bring one asham, and Rabbi Yossi says they two do not bring one asham. If there was a piece of ordinary meat and a piece of kalev, if he ate one of them and he did not know which one he ate, he must bring an asham to do. If he ate the second piece, he must bring a chatos. If one person ate the first piece and other came and ate the second piece, this one must bring an asham talu, and one must bring an asham talu. And that one must bring, right. And Rabbi Shimon says they both bring one katos, and Rabbi Yoshi says 2 do not bring one katos. There was a piece of kalev and a piece of sanctified fat. That was it. That was it. Okay. Hey. If one says this ox shall be an oil offering or this house shall be an offering, if the ox died or the house collapsed, he is not obligated to pay. But if he says, I take upon myself to give the worth of this ox as an oil offering, or I take upon myself to give the worth of this house as an offering, if the ox died or the house collapsed, he is obligated to pay. We secure payments from those owing for Arak vows. We do not secure payments from those owing Katos or Asham offerings. We secure payment from those owing Ola and Shalom offerings. Although it does not atone for him until he consents, as it says, voluntary, we coerce him until he says, I am willing. And so you say, regarding the bills of divorce for women, we can coerce him until he says, I am willing. The appraised property of orphans is proclaimed for sale for 30 days, and the appraised property of the temple for 60 days, and the proclaim is for sale in the morning and in the evening. If one consecrated his property and he were liable for his wife Suba, the Eliezer says when he divorces her, he must vow not to derive any benefit from her. And Rabbi Yeshua says he need not vow. And of similar name, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said also if there's a guarantee to a woman's ketubah and her husband was divorcing her, he must vow not to derive any benefit from her, lest he conspire against the one's property and take back his wife.
Okay.
That's it, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, welcome.
You're dalad.
Until the tabernacle was erected, bamos were permitted and the service was performed by the firstborns. When the tabernacle was erected, the bamos became forbidden and the service was performed by Kohanim. The most holy offerings were eaten within the curtains, the holy offerings of lesser holiness to the Israelite camp. They came to Gilgal and the hot bamos were permitted, and the most holy offerings were eaten within the curtains, and the offerings of lesser holiness could be eaten anywhere. When they came to Shiloh, the boas were forbidden. There was no roof there, but a stone house beneath, and a canopy of cloth above, and it was the resting place. The most holy offerings were eaten within the curtains, and the offerings of lesser holiness and Masasheni were eaten within sight.
Okay, that's it. And
Baba Kama. You'd bet. If he gave the money to the Kohanim of the watch and he died, the heirs cannot expect it from them. And as I said, a man who gives to the Kohanim, the Kohen, it shall be his. If he gives the money to Yehoyavel and the guilt offering to Yadiah, he has fulfilled his obligation. If he gives the guilt offering to Yad and the money to Yadiah, and the guilt offering exists, the sons of Yadiah shall offer it. If not, he must bring another guilt offering for one who brings what he stole before he brings his guilt offering has fulfilled his obligation. But one who builds his guilt offering before he brings what he stole has not fulfilled his obligation. If he gave the principal but did not give the fifth does not prevent atonement. If one stole something and gave it to his children to eat or left it to them, they are exempt from paying. But if there was something which can have a lien on it, they are obligated to pay. We may not change money from the custom collector's box or from the tax collector's purse. Normally we accept charity from them. One may, however, accept from his house or from the street. If the customs collector took his donkey and gave him another donkey, if a robber stole his clothing and gave him other clothing, they are his, since the owners despair of them. One who rescues from a river for a troop for robberies, if the owners are despaired of them, they are his. Like a swarm of bees, if the owners are despaired of them, they are his. Said Yochanan, the purchaser must sweat. The purchaser must sweat how much he paid. Sweat.
No, you've jumped.
Oh yeah, okay. I did skip. Okay, let me see. Like a swarm of bees, if the owners have despaired of them, they are his. Said Rabbi Yochanan, the Broka, a woman or a miner is believed to say, the swarm came out of here, and one may go into another field and save his swarm. If he inflicted damage, he must pay for what he damaged, but he may not cut off his branch with the intention of making restitution. Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yochanan the Broka, says he may even cut off and make restitution. If one recognizes...
Yeah.
And we have Erevin. We may replace the dressing in the temple, but not in the province. If for the first time it is prohibited here or there. We may tie a string in the temple, but not in the provinces, and if for the first time it is prohibited here or there. We may cut off a wart in the temple, but not in the provinces, but if with an instrument it is prohibited here and there. A Kohen who injured his finger may wrap regress over in the temple, but not in the provinces. If to force out blood, he is prohibited there, here and there. We may spread salt on the ramp so that they should not slip, and we may draw water from the exiles' well and from the great wall with a windlass on the Sabbath and from the flowing well on Yom Tov. If a sheretz was found in the temple, a Kohen may remove it with his sash so as not to prolong the presence of tumor contamination. These are the words of Yochanan the Broka. Rabbi Yehuda says with a wooden tongue so as not to increase the contaminations. And for where do we remove it? From the temple, the antechamber, between the antechamber and the altar. These are the words of Rabbi Shimon ben Anas. Rabbi Akiva says, the area for which one occurs carries is an intentional transgression and a sin offering for an unintentional transgression. From there we must remove it, but all the areas we cover it with a pot. And Rabbi Shimon says, wherever the sages have granted the dispensation, they have given you what is yours, and they have not permitted except the rabbit, which is a rabbinical decree.
Hadran Alach, Maseches Erevin, and tomorrow is Psachim.
Psachim already. Okay.
And Nida.
A girl who was 11 years and 1 day old, her vows are examined. A girl who was 12 years and 1 day, her vows stand, and the girl's vows are examined her entire 12th year. A boy who was 12 and a day old, his vows are examined. The boy who was 13 and 1 day, his vows stand, and a boy's vows are examined his entire 13th year. Before the time, if they say, we knew unto whom we vowed, we know unto whom we consecrated, these vows are not valid vows, and their consecrations are not valid consecrations. After this time, if they say, we do not know unto whom we vowed, or we do not know unto whom we consecrated, their vows are valid vows, and their consecrations are valid consecrations. The stage is created as a metaphor for this development stages of a woman, a green fig, a small fig, and a semel. At the stage where she is likened to a green fig, she is still a child. The stage of a small fig alludes to the days of an Hanaris period. During both this stage and that stage, the father is entitled to fines and draw earnings to his annulment of her vows. Semel alludes to a stage of full adulthood. When she reaches this full adulthood, her father no longer has authority over her. What are her signs? When Yossi Gailey says from when crease forms under her breast, when Akiva says from when the breasts hang down, when Azai says from when the areola darkens. Rabbi Yossi says time for when the breast is large enough to one shall put his hand on the nipple and it sinks in and delays returning to its original position. In the case of
that's it. Yeah.
All right, terrific. I will see you tomorrow. I don't know if I'll be early again, but we'll see if it happens. Okay.
Good Chodesh.
Okay, good Chodesh. Thank you.